I just got off the conversation with someone about competition and love. They have often, as many of us do, compete in a relationship. And they want to understand the pluses and minuses of competing in a relationship. Now, to understand love relationships, you first have to understand the bigger picture of what a love relationship is to understand the effects of competition in a love relationship. So, when you imagine what a love relationship is, it's best to allow nature to give you and teach you about how this occurs. And a good way to do is to just think of an ocean. Now think of yourselves, you and your mate, going to the beach. And you can relate on the sand, or you can relate inside the water, waist deep, or you can relate once you're on a wave, or you can relate together further out in the ocean. And what does that look like in a love relationship? Well, if you like competing, and there's different ways of competing in a love relationship. You can compete against each other, or you can compete, and you can do it seriously or playfully. You can compete with each other against others. You can compete with each other against yourselves, in other words, to better yourselves and strengthen yourselves, and you help each other do that as a team. You can compete against other couples. You can compete against goals that you're seeking to accomplish or even conquer, fears. So competition is not a terrible thing for relationships. It depends on how it's done. But like an ocean, you got to be careful where you're competing. Now, again, there are couples who never really get out in the ocean. Now, when you say you're in love, if you're using the ocean as an analogy to explain being in love and what it is, the in love part is the part when you're both in and riding a wave, right? Where it's bigger than you, where you know, oh my God, I'm in love, and I'm head over heels. Or if you're using the ocean, I'm underwater, it's tossing me and turning me. And when you first learn or try to ride a wave as a kid, you know the experience of it throwing you every which way because you don't know how to do it yet. Right? So, as a couple, when you're in love, it's like you're on that wave. And you're trying to learn how to ride the wave together. Now, there is no competing at that realm. If you start competing with this wave and you compete with each other, that wave's going to throw you every which way. And that's why a lot of these relationships that are highly competitive and deeply passionate and love fall to shit as soon as a wave throws them every which way. Right? And they both wind up exhausted on the shore. So it's not a smart place to compete in the wave. You first have to learn. And so if being in love is like riding a wave, then you can't beat love. You have to learn to flow with it. Right? And so you practice flowing with that wave. And it takes time. You don't do it overnight. And most of you want to do it instantly. Now let's say you start doing that. Or let's say, a lot of people think they're in love, but they never have been in love. They've never been in the wave. They just set up a nice little picnic on the sand. They even went in the water. And because it's so civil and nice, and it's sunny and fun, and I can wear my bikini, or I can even fuck on the beach and feel, really good. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That's not love. That's just fucking under the sun, and it's really nice. Now let's say you go into the water. You go waist deep, by the way. Waist deep is easier to compete. You can play with each other and, throw water at each other, and that's what we do. Again, the ocean as a metaphor to teach us about love and what love is and how to be in love. How to be inside of love. And why what happens. You go in waist deep, you're playing around, you can dunk each other, and you can have sex there, and it's really nice, and it's still not in love. Because you haven't gotten to the wave part yet. Now you have those who learn how to set up themselves on the beach shore very nicely. So they go, let's get on a boat and go out deep into the ocean, skipping the wave altogether, and we'll set up what we set up on the shore. So you set up a nice, boat or yacht even, and you create a whole life there, and you call that marriage. But you've never been in love yet still. You've never surrendered to the ocean yet. And so you go out there deep in the water, and guess what? You don't go in that water. You don't feel the confidence and safety. You haven't ridden the wave yet. And it's really nice at first, because you can have the same benefits that you have on shore: the sun, the tanning, the food, the drinks, the company. But you never get in the water, and it can get, after a while, boring. Because you have everything you want, but there's nothing you can do, because you're stuck on this boat, no matter how big a yacht it may be. And so, some people just jump ship. So that too is not, you can compete out there, by the way. Gotta be careful, don't fall in the water, because game over, somebody can die. But you can compete out there in the ocean. You can compete on waist deep. You can compete on the shore, on the sands. But you can't compete with this wave that you both are suddenly riding when you actually says, and you are pulled in, let's say, and now you're in love. And it's do or die. That's why we're so afraid about falling in love, because on some level you can die. You can die to the life you know. You're in such grief you can't even get up and continue the life you once knew with any care or fulfillment. And if you can, you weren't in love. So you let yourself have that experience. You dive deep into those waves, you experience it, and you learn together how to ride the wave. Now, how nice is that to look side by side as you're riding a wave? And the fun to keep going back out there, and the excitement and the exhilaration and the passion that being in love like that brings. It's not like you can't have passion waist deep, but it's not love. But now I'm talking love and passion. And let's say you've been doing this a while and you're so good at it, then you go, let's venture further out. So now you start venturing further out and you go into deeper waters, but you do it confidently, because you've already handled the hard part, the waves. And then if you set up life out there, now these two people in love who've had that experience, that can now set up a life. Now, for those of you who are young at relationships and you expect yourself to do it perfectly the first time, you can't ride a wave perfectly the first time, second or third. And for those who learn to surf, well, yeah, you can surf a wave, but you're not in love because you're by yourself. All right, so, all you surfers who are listening to this and think, oh, well, I got it down. No, you don't. You're just masturbating. So, if you look at the ocean, and just to complete here, when you place high expectations on yourself in love, it's quite silly, because it's a process of learning, and it takes time to be able to learn how to let go and flow. And to expect your mate to do it when you haven't is really ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. It's something that involves two people to do together for it to happen. And there's stages of which you can do it in. And just because you set up house on the shore or waist deep or out in the ocean doesn't mean you know a fucking thing about love. You know about marriage, but you don't know shit about love. We all have to go through that process, through that initiation, through those doors, through those waves, where we know we're not in charge, but that we don't need to, because this force is so much larger than all of us, and we can learn to flow with it. And once you do that, now you can go back to shore or out deep into the ocean and have experiences that you've never imagined. But if you play it safe, you can see now how safety, not care, don't confuse care with safety. You take care. You take care of yourself, make sure you slept enough, make sure you've eaten well. When you go in and ride that wave, it can knock you out. if you're exhausted or don't have or depleted. But if you want safety, you're never, ever, ever going to understand what it's like to fall in love. You're never going to have the experience of falling in love. You'll fall into like, but not love. Because that involves complete surrendering and allowing yourself to learn and release and let go, to flow. And then your options have exponentially multiplied with that other. And let's say that relationship goes separate ways, you feel fulfilled. Now you know how to go out into the deep ocean. And you can go out into the deep ocean and set up your own nice, beautiful sailboat. And as you're going along, and let's say you're 40 or 50 or 60 years old and you're out on that ocean, there's some other people there that have done the same, have already been through it. And you can meet. And you can fall in love in a completely, utterly different way than it was ever like in your 20s, teens, 20s, and 30s. It could be something that I can't even explain to you. It's better to allow you to experience it. So let nature be your true teacher. Right? Just think of the ocean if you want to understand love.